It's MJ of What MJ Loves, and today I am talking about growing a Caribbean inspired kitchen garden. So I'm sitting out in my garden right now, and I'm going to take you guys on a tour of what I have growing in the garden. But before I do that, let me introduce you to who I am. So as I said, I'm MJ. I am a wife and a mom of 3 children. I was born in the United Kingdom to 2 Jamaican parents. So of course my family is from the beautiful island of Jamaica. As a child, I lived in Jamaica briefly before moving to the States. I grew up in Flatbush, Brooklyn, aka Little Caribbean. And I spent most summers going back to Jamaica. And during that time, I fell in love with flowers and plants and gardens and growing things and animals too. My family, my grandmother, all of her brothers, her dad, and everyone, they were all butchers. And so I would go out to the farm with my uncle to check on his cows and his goats and the pigs and what have you. And my aunts, they all sold what they grew in their gardens, different fruits and vegetables and herbs and spices. And so it's just been a part of my life ever since I was a child. And one of the main reasons I started growing my own garden is, of course, we want food to eat and we want fresh ingredients. We know where they come from, but also because I think it's very important for my children to hopefully carry on the tradition of growing your own food. And hopefully some of that will be Caribbean inspired things in their own gardens. And that's a way for us to continue the generation of growers in our family. So before we go any further, I'm going to take you on a tour of my garden, and then we'll come back and talk some more about what I actually do to help people grow their own gardens. All right, here's the garden. So I have lots of things in here, some of which are not you would not find in a traditional Caribbean kitchen garden. However, I'm growing it because I love it and I eat it. So I'll show you guys a lot of things that you'd actually find in Caribbean cuisine, and I'll talk to you about a few other things that are in here. So let's go. I want to start over here in this bed. These are my tomatoes, and I also have peppers in here. So the first pepper I want to start with, this is a bell pepper, and this is very, very common when you're seasoning up your dish and you're going to put some peppers and onions. You'd put bell peppers. They're just coming through now. If you want to grow peppers, they take a really long time for the seed to germinate. Everything in this bed I started in February, and then they take a long time to grow. They need heat. So now that it's finally heating up, the plant is thriving. Back here is a jalapeno pepper. I have picked off the big one so far, and that, while jalapeno is not common in like Jamaica, let's say, there are other parts of the Caribbean that of course use that type of pepper. Now let's get into the tomatoes. I have a bunch of tomatoes here, 2 in particular that you would find. My mom always uses Roma tomatoes. Everyone in my family uses Roma tomatoes in their cooking for stew and things of that nature. So I have some Roma tomatoes in here. Here goes a few down here. In the same family is a San Marzano, which is also a sauce tomato. And so those 2 in particular would be really good in your Caribbean dishes. Tomatoes, you can see these plants are massive compared to the peppers. Started at the same time. They're pretty easy to grow. There are some bugs and concerns you'll have with that, but you'll learn as you go those types of things. In here I also have some cherry tomatoes, not traditional in Caribbean cuisine, but when I was a child, my aunt grew these, and we would just pop them in our mouth, and she'd also pickle them and add a little pepper. So that's also growing in here. This is some eggplant, and again, not traditional, but for my vegetarian family members and people that eat that type of lifestyle, eggplant, jerk eggplant, for example, is delicious. Very, very wonderful. And eggplant is very adaptable to different flavors. You could curry it, you can jerk it, you can stew it. So much you could do with it. So if eggplant is not familiar to you, it's something that I think that you would definitely love with your Caribbean spices and seasoning. Down here we have a couple more peppers coming in. This one is also a bell pepper. You see how small it is? This is called a Cajun bell, and so it has a little kick to it. But the main pepper I wanted to show you guys, this is the Scotch bonnet pepper, or Scotchies as I call them. And I'm so excited. It's my first year growing them in my Caribbean inspired kitchen garden. I got the seeds from peppers that my uncle grew in his garden, which is not too far from where I live. And the actual plant and the peppers originally came from Jamaica, which is something, you know, if you're from the Caribbean, your family members are always bringing you spices, and we get pepper and seeds, and we get ackee, and you name it, breadfruit, you name it. So I'm so excited about my Scotch bonnet peppers here. Down here I have some lavender. This is something that I would put in tea. I'd mix it with mint. I'll show you guys I have mint as well. And then also with ginger, right? Over here, this is zucchini. And again, while it's not traditional in a sense, these are the types of foods, vegetables you would grow that are very adaptable to what we know commonly as our types of flavoring that we like. So I grow them. There are more tomatoes here. Over here, I had some garlic growing. I'll show you. I've already harvested it all because it's time. I'll show you just 2 of them. The rest of them are drying, and I wasn't going to pull them out and disturb them. But I'm going to zoom in, some callaloo that I put in very late. I put it in by seed, so they'll take a long time. We have a long growing season here, so that's fine. And they're coming up right against some collard greens. Now, we make collard greens in our family, and you know, my mom, when she makes it, I make it the same way. We spice it up a bit differently so that it's has some Caribbean flavor to it. And this is kale, again, adaptable. Over in the corner here, you can see that is sorrel. And so, of course, we use it to make the actual sorrel drink. And we also use it to make tea. You know, so it's from hibiscus. So let's see now. I'm going to come over, swing this way really quick. We had some big rain, and I have a drainage problem going on right here. So my favorite herb in Caribbean cooking is thyme. We always have thyme. We grow it and we use it fresh. I come out here and clip it whenever I want, or I get a bunch of it and I dry it and I share it with my family. I have lots of different herbs in the garden, but this one in particular is my absolute favorite when I'm preparing my dishes. I also have some okra growing here, very common in Caribbean cuisine. And then I want to show you guys, this is some garlic that I grew, and these are the last 2 that I harvested last week. They're drying, but I happen to have them close by, so I figured I would pull them out and show you. And then I am getting ready to plant ginger, and I'm actually going to put it in a pot, and as you can see, it's starting to sprout, and that's exactly what we're looking for. This is an organic piece of ginger, and so I'm getting ready to pot it. And if you stick around, in a few months we should be harvesting some ginger. It grows really pretty. It looks like a very tropical plant while it's growing, so it'll be a beautiful addition to the landscape in here. Over on this side, we'll talk a little bit more about different things to make tea with. So I'm gonna come over here. This is lemon balm. I use this to make tea. My mom loves it with mint mix, and also it's good to make sauces. A lot of Asian inspired dishes happen within the Caribbean, and lemon balm is popular in that as well. I also have some rosemary and sage, and I tend to do a mix, right? I make my own seasoning mixes and blends, and I will blend in something more traditional with something not as traditional, and then it comes out lovely. I'm gonna move over here really quickly and show you guys I have lots of mint. So this is mint, and then I have some more mint over here. And of course, you know, we use those to make tea, especially. You can also put them in a nice rum drink, you name it, right? This is lemongrass, again, very common in Asian inspired dishes. And it's also good as tea as well. And it's good for mosquito repellent, just so you know. So I have plenty of it around here. And I have, this is my new baby. This is a sour orange tree. I have a long story I could tell you about getting this tree. The lady who grew it, she took it cutting off of another tree that she had, and she grew this tree, and she gifted it to me. And then I learned, my mom, when I brought the tree home, I showed my mom, I gave her one of the leaves to smell, and her first thing was like, oh my God, Dad used to make us sour orange lemonade. And I didn't know that. I'd never had it in Jamaica. Of course, our traditional Jamaican style lemonade is made with limes, right? So that's what I'm used to. And she said, no man, you need to take some of this when them grow and make sour orange lemonade. So I'm looking forward to adding that, this to our garden and making sour orange lemonade. I am also going to be growing some limes that will do well here, and some lemons. Now, the key to growing these, in particular when you are not in, like, let's say southern Florida, and that type of climate, is you have to grow them in a pot, a bigger pot than this, and you have to move them indoors once it starts to get cold. So I'm gonna have a mini indoor tropical garden with just my sour orange and my lemons and what have you. And then the last thing I want to talk about briefly is flowers. So when you're growing outdoors, you want to have some flowers to attract your pollinators. So that would be your bees and your butterflies and your hummingbirds. They all come through here. So this is where I grow most of my flowers. I have some more mint and things in the back. This is where I grow most of my flowers. And this one in particular that I'm focusing in on, no flowers yet, but you can see them coming. This is in the hibiscus family. So once it blooms, it reminds me so much of some of the flowers back in Jamaica. So that's what we have here growing. And my main goal is to have children. My kids come out all the time. The neighborhood kids come, and teach them how to grow, with the hopes of more generations coming on and growing their own food and keeping the traditions going. So I am always available to talk about gardening. I do my coaching if you need a little bit more details, but I just love it. And I think we can all, no matter where you live, no matter how much space you have, there are certain things you can grow that will bring you right back to your heritage. So did you enjoy the tour of my garden? I have plans to expand it even bigger than what it is right now. It's actually not that big, honestly. It's on the side of our house. I've measured it before, 16 feet by, I think, 12 feet wide. Maybe a little bit bigger than that. I can't remember now. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that quick tour. So let me tell you, first of all, most of what I showed you can grow in pots, and I think that's very important to note, because everyone doesn't have the land space. But even something like in Brooklyn, on your stoop, you could put a couple of pots now that it's hot, and you can grow pretty much anything you want. I have grown my tomatoes, and before I dug all of this out and built the garden, everything was in pots. I had tomatoes and peppers and thyme and onions and so on and so forth, growing right in pots on our back deck. And then I expanded to this. So I want everyone to try to grow something. Now, there's a lot you need to learn, but the best way is through trial and error. You like it, you grow it, and it either will grow or it won't, or it'll start growing and it might not thrive, and you'll learn by just doing. And so that's very important to me. And one of the reasons why I'm doing like something like a sour orange. I'm just gonna put it in a bigger pot and I'm going to take care of it, and hopefully we'll have some sour oranges next year. One thing I didn't mention on the tour that I also grow that's very common in Caribbean cuisine is onions. And so I grew onions, they overwintered, I harvested them, onions and scallions. I could actually do scallions now, but even something like a scallion, right? The ones you buy at the store, you cut off the greens. I like to cook the whites as well, so I never have any left over. But let's say you have right down to the nub, the whites, you put that in some water and it'll start to grow. So that's what I mean. You can do it in a pot. You can do it on a windowsill in your house. You can grow most herbs and things like scallions right on a windowsill inside your house or apartment. Don't tell anybody what I used to have on my fire escape in Brooklyn, New York, but trust me, I used to grow even a tomato out there. So I want everyone to at least try to grow something. If it's in a pot, no problem. If you have land space you want to dig out, no problem. And that's what I do. So along with other business things, my mom and I, we have a spice business and we blend things like that. I teach people how to grow edible gardens, and my passion is getting children involved in something like that, but also keeping it close to your heritage. So of course for us here, most of us, it would be Caribbean inspired things in the garden. And I show people how to do something in a pot. I teach people about their soil. I teach people about growing in soil. My big tomato bed I showed you guys, I dug that bed out this year, and I have it on Instagram in a highlight where you could see we had a whole lot of challenges with big boulders, and I grew it out this year, and as you can see, the tomatoes and the peppers are thriving in that bed. So it's not impossible to get started small and ramp your way up, or start big if you have the space to start big. In my coaching, I just really help you, and I'm available for questions. And so people call me or they text me all the time, and it's just what I love to do. So moving forward from here, I have a couple things I'm going to experiment with that normally wouldn't traditionally grow here, and I will be making some nice recipes over the summer to share with you guys directly from things from my garden. I have a download, if you guys would like to have it, which basically is a blueprint for starting a Caribbean inspired garden. It includes some of my things that I grow and how I grow them, how you should grow them depending on where you live, and tips on your soil and things like that. So if you're interested, download that on my website and email me or find me on Instagram. I do a lot of gardening stories on Instagram. I walk through in the morning and I always have a song to play. Usually it's reggae. You'll find a lot of soca, in a way of just exposing people to our culture and our heritage. But you can send me an inbox on Instagram or wherever. We could talk about it all day, every day. I wake up talking garden. I go to sleep talking garden. So that's all. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Eva, thank you for having me. And I'll talk to you all soon, all you future gardeners. I'm right here.